The stars lay silent, scattered across the void like ancient watchful eyes. No sound, no movement, just the infinite stillness of the galactic frontier. For centuries, this sector was abandoned, its coordinates marked in the stellar charts as derelict, unworthy, barren. A place no sane fleet wasted its time with. And yet, on this day, the void trembled. An armada stretched across the dark, a living tide of alloy and plasma. Hundreds of ships, cruisers, battleships, and carriers, moved in perfect formation, their hulls glittering like jagged obsidian. The fleet belonged to the Zorith Dominion, a warlike empire whose reputation had long been enough to keep rival civilizations bowed in submission. The galaxy knew their symbol, a crimson sigil carved like a blade across every ship's hull, the mark of conquest. Their commander, High Warlord Zyther, sat on the bridge of the flagship Dreadfang, a vessel that dwarfed lesser cruisers like a leviathan among sharks. His voice, heavy with certainty, rumbled through the fleet's comnet. Sector Delta 7 is empty. Intelligence confirms no civilization holds it. We move in, establish staging grounds, and expand the Dominion's borders. Nothing lives here but dust. Nothing, until the scanners whispered otherwise. Contact, said the sensor officer, her frills tightening against her pale scales. Bearing, forward quadrant. Small signature. Minimal energy output. Could be, debris. Zyther narrowed his molten gold eyes. Debris does not hold formation. His taloned hand gestured. Magnify. The holographic display expanded, rendering a single shape adrift in the dark. It was a ship, or something that resembled one. Its hull was long and angular, colored in muted blacks and silvers that swallowed light rather than reflected it. No insignia marked it. No broadcasts identified it. No transponder code spoke of its allegiance. It drifted, motionless, as though abandoned. The bridge fell quiet. A lieutenant broke the silence. Designation unknown, Warlord. No records in our archives match this design. Then it is scavenger trash, another officer sneered. A derelict. Unworthy of notice. But the Warlord did not speak. His eyes lingered on the shadow ship. For reasons he could not articulate, the sight of it unsettled him. There was a presence about it, a weight in the void, as though the stars themselves recoiled from its proximity. Scan deeper, he ordered. Moments passed. The sensor officer's crest rippled with unease. Strange readings, Commander. Its hull is resisting analysis. Energy patterns are minimal, but, she hesitated. They do not match any known technology. A low growl rippled across the bridge. Unknown technology? In Dominion territory? Zyther leaned forward. Is it armed? The officer swallowed. Insufficient data. No weapons visible, yet the structure suggests hidden arrays. Power sources, irregular. It could be dormant. Or, her voice faltered, it could be watching. The silence stretched like a blade's edge. Then, one of the captains on the comnet laughed. A guttural, booming sound. One ship? Against the Dominion's might? A carcass, at best. Allow me, Warlord, to reduce it to ash. Zyther's gaze sharpened. The Dominion was ruthless, its strength unquestionable. Their fleets had crushed dozens of empires, ground civilizations into dust. What could one ship, silent and nameless, possibly mean? And yet, his instincts clawed at him. Something felt wrong. Hold, he said, voice low. But it was too late. A forward cruiser broke formation, thrusters igniting as it veered toward the unknown vessel. Its engines flared blue, weapons charging, targeting arrays locking onto the silent ship. Across the Armada's channels, voices jeered and boasted. Some called it sport. Others mocked the idea that such a lone shadow could warrant fear. The cruiser loomed close, its cannons glowing like suns. It transmitted a broadcast, voice dripping with arrogance. Unknown vessel. You trespass in Dominion-claimed space. You are outnumbered, outgunned, and irrelevant. By decree of High Warlords either, surrender your hull for salvage or face eradication. The unknown ship did not answer. Its hull remained still, its silhouette frozen like a monument to silence. The Dominion cruiser locked weapons. Fire, ordered the captain. The cannons ignited. Bolts of plasma, each capable of burning through fortified stations, shot across the void. They streaked toward the unknown ship, and vanished. Not by impact. Not by shields. They simply ceased to exist, dissolving into nothingness before touching the hull. The comnet fell into stunned silence. What happened? The cruiser's captain barked. The warlord leaned forward, claws tightening on his throne. Again, he growled. The cruiser fired. More plasma. More annihilation. The bolts winked out of existence, devoured by the space around the shadow ship, as though the void itself swallowed them. Then the ship stirred. For the first time, its lights flared to life. Thin, jagged lines of blue lit its hull, crawling like veins across its body. Energy surged. Its engines burned with an unnatural brilliance. Its form seemed to sharpen, as though the darkness had been its cocoon, and now it had awoken. A single word slipped from the lips of the sensor officer. Alive. The cruiser captain shouted. It powers weapons. Shields. Pull back. Too late. In less than a heartbeat, the unknown vessel unleashed light. A beam, not of plasma, not of ion fire, but something beyond comprehension, erupted from its hull. It was silent, swift, merciless. It touched the Dominion cruiser. And in that instant, the cruiser ceased to exist. Not wreckage. Not flame. Just absence, as though erased from reality itself. Gasps rippled across the comnet. The Dominion fleet, proud, unshaken conquerors, froze in disbelief. On the flagship bridge, Warlord Zyther rose to his feet, claws scraping metal. His voice thundered. Identify it. Now. The sensor officer's hands trembled as she pulled fragmented data from the void. Signal, faint. Ancient code embedded deep in its systems. Translating. The bridge lights flickered. The transmission came not from the Dominion, but from the unknown ship itself. A voice filled the void, calm, cold, and spoken in a tongue long forgotten by the galaxy. It was human. This sector is under Earth's protection. Leave, or be annihilated. The bridge crew stared in shock. Earth. A word that lingered only in hushed myths and archival whispers. A dead world, they believed. A species long forgotten. Impossible. But the evidence stood before them, alive and undeniable. A human warship. Unknown. Dangerous. Awake. The warlord's throat rumbled with a mix of fury and fear. The Dominion Armada, 100 strong, had just witnessed a single vessel obliterate one of their own in a fraction of a second. And it had spoken with the voice of ghosts. The silence that followed was unbearable. The stars themselves seemed to wait, holding their breath for the slaughter to come. The Dominion Armada had never known silence like this. Not during the fall of rival empires. Not during planetary bombardments that painted skies with fire. The void, now, felt heavier than any battlefield, oppressive, suffocating. Hundreds of ships, each bristling with weapons, held still, staring at the lone vessel that had erased one of their own as if swatting away dust. High Warlord Zyther's voice finally broke through the comnet, low and cold. That was no illusion. A Dominion cruiser is gone. One ship did this. Fear rippled through the lower officers, but pride, as always, burned bright among the Dominion's ranks. Pride had built their empire. Pride had crushed countless enemies. And pride refused to kneel before a single shadow. A chorus of captains thundered across the net. We outnumber it. Overwhelm it. A relic cannot stand against the Dominion's might. Xyther's jaws clenched. Every instinct screamed danger, yet hesitation would unravel the Dominion's image of invincibility. And so, he lifted his clawed hand. Strike. At once, a dozen cruisers and destroyers surged forward, wings spread like predators in a hunt. Their cannons glowed, engines roared, and coordinated fire erupted, a storm of plasma bolts, torpedoes, and ion lances. The darkness lit like a false dawn. But the warship did not flinch. The human vessel moved with a calm that bordered on mockery. Its silhouette shimmered, and then it vanished. Not cloaking, not a jump, but something the Dominion's technology couldn't comprehend. One instant it was there, the next it flickered across the field, reappearing behind the charging cruisers. The Dominion captains barely had time to react. Blue arcs tore across the void. The human ship's weapons were not bursts, not missiles, but ribbons of light that cut like scalpels. One cruiser split in half, its two pieces spinning away before they dissolved into nothingness. Another ship, shields flaring, tried to retaliate, but its core collapsed in on itself, imploding silently as though the laws of physics bowed before alien will. Within seconds, 12 Dominion warships were gone. Obliterated. The fleet channels exploded with shouts, confusion, screams. Some demanded explanations, others cursed the impossible. Xyther bared his fangs, rage barely masking his growing dread. Pull back. Form defensive lines, he barked. The remaining ships scrambled, clustering around the flagship, their shields overlapping, their weapons forming a bristling wall of fire. They had crushed empires this way before, an iron curtain of coordinated power. The human ship floated before them, silent, waiting. Its hull glowed faintly with that eerie blue light, veins of power pulsing like the heartbeat of some ancient beast. For the first time, Xyther wondered if the Dominion was not the predator here, but the prey. Aboard the Dominion battleship Vortak, Captain Relitha's claws dug into his armrest. Sweat dampened his frills. He had seen fleets fall, he had commanded victories that scarred planets, yet nothing compared to this. His crew whispered in terror around him. "Captain, what are we fighting?" one asked, voice trembling. Relitha's mandibles tightened. He had no answer. The warship was not only killing ships. It was dismantling their faith. The Dominion believed themselves invincible, yet now their arrogance fractured under the cold gaze of a ship that should not exist. On the Dreadfong, Warlord Xyther stood tall, refusing to let fear anchor him. "Fire all batteries," he ordered. "Do not relent." The Dominion Armada obeyed. The void blazed as hundreds of guns discharged in unison. Plasma rivers, torpedo swarms, focused ion beams, all converged on the lone human warship. And still, it endured. The weapons struck, but instead of exploding, the projectiles crumbled into light, dissolving against an invisible field. Energy beams bent around its hull like water flowing past stone. Not even a scorch mark marred its surface. Then came the reply. The warship's hull shimmered again, and from its surface, hundreds of pinpricks of light emerged. At first they seemed small, insignificant. But each speck accelerated, faster than Dominion sensors could track, faster than thought itself. The stars blinked as the swarm descended. Explosions tore across the Dominion line. Battleships shuddered as their shields collapsed. Carriers erupted into flames, spilling fighters into the void like sparks from a dying torch. Destroyers broke apart, their screams flooding the comnet before being snuffed into silence. The human ship did not roar, did not gloat. It killed with surgical efficiency, each strike deliberate, each action measured. A predator not wasting energy, not flexing pride, but simply ending. The Dominion captains panicked. Fall back. It's a weapon, something beyond comprehension. We cannot fight this. Xyther slammed his fist onto his command chair, silencing the chaos. His voice, harsh as steel, cut across the comms. We are Dominion. We do not flee from ghosts. But even as he spoke, he felt the weight of dread press down on him. This was no ordinary ghost. This was something ancient, deliberate, purposeful. His sensor officer's voice broke the tension. Warlord. I've traced its signal. The language is primitive, yet clear. The vessel's name is encoded into its system. Speak it, Xyther demanded. The officer swallowed. Designation, UNS Nemesis. Origin. Earth. The bridge froze. Earth. That cursed name again. Whispers long buried clawed to the surface of their memories. Earth, the forgotten cradle. A species once thought weak, fractured, consumed by its own wars. Legends claimed humanity had vanished millennia ago, too insignificant to survive. Yet here it stood. Not weak. Not fractured. But risen, cloaked in technology that defied all reason. And it had chosen this moment to return. The Nemesis stirred once more. Its engines flared, brighter than before, as if signaling the Dominion fleet that the true battle had not even begun. Then, the voice came again. Cold. Human. Unshaken. You were warned. You ignored. Now you will learn. Light erupted. The Nemesis moved like a phantom, weaving through the Dominion's defenses as though the vast Armada were nothing but drifting wreckage. Every flicker of its hull spelled death. Every pulse of its weapons erased ships by the dozen. Carriers split apart, unleashing firestorms. Cruisers disintegrated into clouds of molten fragments. Dreadnoughts, once titans of war, cracked and vanished under beams that ignored their shields as if they were made of paper. The Dominion Armada, proud conquerors, feared across the galaxy, was reduced to chaos in minutes. And on every bridge, every surviving officer felt it, the chilling certainty that they were not witnessing war. They were witnessing a judgment. On the Dreadfong, alarms wailed. Dozens of ships had already fallen, their ashes scattered across the stars. The once glorious formation was broken, replaced with panic and desperate maneuvers. Xyther stood at the center of it all, fury burning in his chest, but beneath it, fear gnawed at him like acid. For the first time in his life, he considered the unthinkable. What if the Dominion cannot win? The Nemesis hung before them, silent, patient, unstoppable. And still, Xyther knew, this was not yet the end. The battlefield was no longer a battlefield. It was a graveyard. Where once hundreds of ships had flown in perfect Dominion formation, now only fragments drifted, glowing embers of what had been an invincible fleet. Metal husks spun silently through the void, their molten trails painting scars across the darkness. Life pods blinked faintly among the wreckage, tiny sparks of survival swallowed by the immensity of space. And at the center of it all hovered the Nemesis. Unmoved. Unshaken. Its hull still pulsed with that eerie blue glow, veins of power carving along its surface like the runes of a god long forgotten. It had annihilated the Armada, yet it did not pursue the survivors with hunger. It simply waited. On the bridge of the Dominion flagship Dreadfong, Warlord Xyther stood in silence. His claws hung limp at his sides, his breath heavy. Around him, his officers whispered, their voices brittle with terror. Half the fleet is gone. More than half. No, all but us. Xyther's molten eyes burned as he stared at the human vessel. For all his years of conquest, he had never seen such power wielded with such restraint. The Nemesis could have destroyed them all in seconds. Yet it hadn't. It had chosen to leave him alive. Why? The voice answered before he could ask. High Warlord Zyther. It rolled through the comnet like a tide, calm, unhurried. A human voice, carrying no anger, no desperation, only authority. Every Dominion officer froze. It knew his name. You have witnessed enough. Zyther's mandibles clenched. He forced steel into his tone. I am Warlord of the Dominion. You speak as if you are a god. Yet you are one vessel. What are you? For a long moment, silence filled the void. Then the reply came, colder than the stars. We are humanity. Once forgotten, never forgiven. You built an empire on fear. You enslaved, you conquered, you believed yourselves eternal. But to us, you are dust. The bridge trembled, not from impact, but from the weight of those words. Humanity. A name every Dominion historian had laughed at. A myth. A species dismissed as primitive and irrelevant. And yet here they were, their warship rewriting the laws of war in seconds. The Nemesis moved again, but not with weapons. Its hull opened like an eye, revealing something vast within, an orb of swirling light, pulsing like a star contained. Dominion sensors screamed in agony, flooded with impossible readings. Gravity bent. Energy bled into the void. The sensor officer gasped. It's not a weapon. It's a signal? Indeed, it was. A pulse rippled outward, sweeping across the wreckage, across the sector, across the galaxy itself. Every Dominion outpost, every ship, every colony linked to the fleet's network received it. A transmission. A message from Earth. The voice echoed everywhere. Calm. Cold. Human. To all who hear, this galaxy is not yours to devour. You will not enslave, you will not consume, you will not rule by fear. We are humanity. We are returned. Remember the name, Nemesis. The transmission ended. Silence reclaimed the void. On the Dreadfang, shock rippled through the crew. Some trembled, others collapsed to their knees. Zyther, however, stood frozen. His mind churned, clawing for understanding. This was no random encounter. No accident. Humanity had chosen this place, this fleet, this moment. They had made an example of the Dominion. And the galaxy would hear of it. The Dominion had long built its empire on fear. Today, that foundation had cracked. And once fear shifted, once doubt spread, empires crumbled. Zyther knew the truth then. This was not a battle. This was a message. A faint alarm pulled him back. One of his officers stammered, "Warlord, the Nemesis is powering weapons again. It will finish us." The Nemesis turned, its silhouette filling the Dreadfang's view screen. Its hull pulsed brighter, charging for the kill. The crew braced for the end. But the beam never came. Instead, the Nemesis unleashed a single lance of light, not at the Dreadfang, but past it. The beam lanced into the void, erasing a Dominion supply outpost hidden on a nearby moon. The explosion painted the stars with fire before vanishing into silence. And then, the warship was gone. Not through jump drive, not through warp. It simply flickered, like a candle snuffed out, leaving nothing but emptiness where it had stood. The battlefield drifted in eerie quiet. Fires flickered among shattered hulks. The Dominion survivors clung to life pods, trembling in disbelief. The galaxy had changed in that instant, though none could yet grasp how deeply. On the Dreadfang, Warlord Zyther sank into his command chair, claws trembling for the first time in his life. He knew what awaited him when he returned to Dominion space. The Council would demand answers, demand vengeance. But vengeance against that? Against humanity reborn? He exhaled a slow, ragged breath. "Inform the Council," he said at last. His voice was hoarse, broken. "Tell them, the age of Dominion is over." His officers stared, stunned. None dared speak. Zyther's gaze hardened, burning through the void where the Nemesis had stood. A name carved into his soul. Nemesis. Elsewhere, across the stars, the ripple had already begun. The transmission of Earth spread like wildfire, carried on stolen Dominion relays, whispered across trader routes, etched into the memory of every species who heard it. The galaxy now knew, humanity lived. Humanity was watching. And humanity had forged weapons that made even the strongest armadas vanish like shadows. For the first time in millennia, the predators of the cosmos trembled. And somewhere, in the silence of the void, the Nemesis moved on, seeking its next audience, its next empire, its next message. The galaxy would not forget this day. The day the Dominion's greatest armada vanished in seconds. The day a ghost ship from Earth returned. The day Nemesis spoke.